and welcome to YourTown television program. I'm your host, Paula Joy MacNab. And as always, I have an amazing guest with me in this segment. And I have a personal interest in this. So you know me, I'm very selfish about who I choose. I choose fascinating people and fascinating topics that I get to learn something from. So this morning I have with me Lindsay Dyson. And Lindsay is the director of the Carmel Transcendental Meditation Center. And I have absolutely such excitement about learning what she's going to share with us today to enhance my knowledge and I don't think I could enhance my appreciation of meditation. It's something that I use every morning and it's an integral part of my life. So welcome to the program, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Paula Joy. It's great to be here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's just such a treat because this is a powerful, powerful tool in our world. And I think, as you know, it's becoming more so. And the good news is it's becoming more mainstream. It no longer has the woo-woo factor of, you know, the fear factor of all the images that people have had in the past about yogis sitting on beds of nails or, you know, all of those things. So I always like to know what is your passion about it? Did Transcendental Meditation or TM, did it change your life?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I wanted to teach it to other people. My mother first learned Transcendental Meditation. She was an artist, a commissioned portrait painter, and she saw a poster that said, "Increase your creativity and intelligence," and she thought, that's for me.
I'm all over that, right?
Exactly. And so she learned, but I didn't know it. She was on the East Coast and I was on the West Coast, and I would get letters from my mother, and I loved her so much, but they would be really judgmental, basically. And I was 20, so, you know, of course she would have to be concerned about what I was doing with my life.
Sure.
And so in every letter, when I would open it, I would just kind of sigh. And one day I sighed and opened a letter from my mother, and it said, "Dear Lindsay, your sister and the baby are fine. We did this, blah, blah, blah. Love, Mom." There was nothing in there remotely negative or trying to get me to do something. And she wasn't worried. It came across. She wasn't worried. And I just remember staring off into space, and if my mouth didn't open, it was that feeling. You know?
Yes.
And I realized in that moment, this is who my mother really is.
What a gift.
Yeah, yeah. And I just looked back at the letter and I started to read it again just to savor it. And at the bottom I noticed, P.S. This weekend I learned Transcendental Meditation.
Oh my goodness. What a life-changing moment for you.
Yeah. And it's crystal clear. That experience is still crystal clear to me.
So let me ask you something. That's very powerful. So you're saying that your mother said, this weekend, I learned TM, and you saw that much of a shift in her?
It's not uncommon at all. The course on TM takes 4 days, just one meeting a day, and usually during the course itself, people are already beginning to notice benefits.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are some of the questions that people come to you with? We'll get those right out of the way.
Yeah. I can't meditate. I've tried to meditate. I can't still my mind. My thoughts are all over the place. I can't focus. And I say, great, TM is for you then.
Okay.
Because it doesn't involve that sort of thing. Yeah.
So what is TM, Lindsay?
Transcendental Meditation, or TM for short, the TM technique, is a very simple, natural, effortless mental technique that's practiced twice a day, sitting comfortably for about 20 minutes. And what it does is it allows the active thinking mind, we're always thinking thoughts all day long, the surface level of the mind, it allows the active thinking mind to settle down, to settle inward, and experience quieter and quieter levels of thought.
Right.
Until we experience our own inner silence, basically. It's been called the unified field of consciousness. It's known as inner peace, inner quiet, inner silence, inner clarity, and that's what we experience. And during that practice, because of the mind-body connection, when the mind settles down, so does the body. And the body gets extraordinarily deep rest during TM. It's at least twice as deep as the deepest point of a good night's sleep.
So I'm going to go straight to that point, being a bit of an insomniac myself.
Oh, yeah.
See, everybody learns all these deep, dark secrets about me. But what the heck? Mine are yours and yours are mine, I'll bet. So one thing, speak to that insomnia and that buzz of the mind. And I know that many, and I think the statistics on it would be shocking, particularly women, you know, of mature years, shall we say, really suffer deeply from that, and it's accumulative. So speak to that physical.
The scientific studies show that transcendental meditation tends to normalize sleep. And of course, we know that when we get a good night's sleep, the next day goes much better than the day after the night before when we didn't get a good night's sleep, right?
Yeah.
And so the deep rest of transcendental meditation adds to that, but also it tends to normalize the functioning of the physiology and the mind.
So can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yes. So when the mind settles down and becomes less active, quieter and quieter and quieter, the body also settles down and gains very deep rest. In fact, cortisol levels, you may know, the stress hormone, during sleep, they drop maybe 10, 12%. During the practice of transcendental meditation, they drop 30%. Wow. So it's extraordinarily good deep rest. Now, we know that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is the founder of TM, and he gave it out to the world. And he defined stress as a physiological abnormality caused by undue pressure on the system. And so what does that mean? That means basically that we can have overloads. Overloads mentally, we get overloaded. We get overloaded emotionally. We get overloaded physically. And that all ends up in the body. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Tense shoulders, funny stomach, twisting tight muscles, cortisol levels change, all the hormones change. The body changes chemically and even structurally in response to stress. And so but the body naturally normalizes itself. And when we give it rest, it tries to kick out that which is foreign to it. For example, if you get a splinter, the body tries to remove that.
Of course.
If you get an infection, white corpuscles rush to the scene of the infection and try to push it out, right? And so when we get extraordinarily deep rest during TM, it basically, the body normalizes or pushes out or dissolves stress. So muscles untighten, untwist, shoulders relax like that. That's a common thing to feel the shoulders relax.
Yes, I could
and chemically,
let those shoulders get down, couldn't I?
And chemically, the cortisol levels drop and all that. And so transcendental meditation is for both the mind and the body because it brings greater mental clarity, greater ability to focus, increased broad comprehension. And I'm not just saying these things. These all are backed by very solid scientific studies published in peer-reviewed journals around the world.
Well, and you talk about that, and that's a really good point. And I want to just share this book with our viewing audience that you brought in. And talk to us about this book a bit. It's a New York Times bestseller, from what I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about this book.
So this book is called Strength in Stillness, and the author is Bob Roth, who's been teaching Transcendental Meditation for over 40 years. And Bob teaches TM now to high-profile people, celebrities, CEOs.
A very stellar list: Oprah Winfrey, Jerry Seinfeld, Ellen DeGeneres, Gwyneth Paltrow, Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Just saying. Tom Hanks. I mean, a
Cameron
stellar.
Diaz.
They're obviously doing something right.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
Of those people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Bob wrote this book in order to write something just very basic and simple, so that it wouldn't be complicated. It'd be easy to read, and it would introduce people to the Transcendental Meditation technique to understand what it's about. And so then they can come and get instructed by a certified TM teacher. And Bob also happens to be the CEO of the David Lynch Foundation.
Tell us about that.
The David Lynch Foundation was founded, forgive me if I get the date wrong, but I believe it was about 2005. Okay. By the director and producer David Lynch, and they formed this foundation in order to raise funds for at-risk populations around the world to have full scholarships to learn the Transcendental Meditation technique.
So what might some of those...
Okay. So to date, they just crossed the 1 million person mark.
Oh my goodness!
So they have taught. The David Lynch Foundation has raised funds for, and successfully we've taught those people for 1 million people in at-risk populations around the world. That means veterans with post-traumatic stress. It means homeless people. It means victims of domestic violence. It means victims of war atrocities, girls off the street in LA, for example. So it's all Native Americans at risk, 80% at risk for diabetes, that sort of thing. And so many people, and school children, that was the main reason. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of school children in Latin America who have learned Transcendental Meditation.
In Latin America?
All over Latin America now. Branches of the military are practicing TM, universities and schools are practicing TM.
So let me ask you a question, and you speak really to an important point, is children.
Yes.
When we are children, and we've all been children, and some of us hopefully continue to be children forever, we're so receptive, we're so open, it's effortless. So why is this not being taught in every school in America?
Well, that's a really good question. It is actually being taught in some schools in America. It's taught in the San Francisco Bay Area public school system.
Wow.
Schools are lined up to learn, to incorporate the Transcendental Meditation technique into their day. But it's a question of funding, basically, and we have to raise the funds for it pretty much. So it's called Quiet Time. And in the San Francisco Bay Area, students come in and they practice. They don't sit for 20 minutes.
Right.
Children don't practice it as long as adults do.
Well, and they probably don't need to.
They don't need to,
They don't have all the overload and the baggage that we acquire.
Except these children are coming from very difficult neighborhoods, very stressful environments for them.
True.
And so when they come to school, they get to do quiet time. It's TM quiet time. And they all sit together and practice their Transcendental Meditation, and then they go about their school day. And at the end of the school day, I know, they come back together and they all meditate so that when they leave the school, they leave with this greater sense of self, this higher self-esteem, this calm and inner peace, so that no matter what's going on in the environment, they are able to deal with that stress so much better. And what happens is in the schools, the kids are starting to pay attention.
Of course.
Yeah. The teachers are getting along better with the administrators.
Of course.
The kids are getting along better with each other. Yeah.
This sounds to me priceless, and it always strikes me so deeply when I hear something can't happen in a school district because of funds. How can people change that?
Well, that's fantastic that you asked. They can actually donate to the David Lynch Foundation.
Oh.
Just davidlynchfoundation.org if they want to. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're there for. Every year they have a fabulous fundraiser, but you can just go online and donate if you want to. Absolutely.
So what would be a next step for someone who's hearing you speak today, very interested in the program? First of all, how do they reach you? Make sure we get that in.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone really understood, Paula, that Transcendental Meditation is for greater mental clarity, and the scientific studies say all aspects of intelligence increase. It's also for deep rest to the physiology, which means improved health, greater energy, and it also improves interpersonal relationships. You know, if you're well rested, you're going to, there's much more giving and receiving going on, right? If you're not, everything kind of dumps down and
it gets ugly.
Exactly. And we can't deal with stress, so people can push your buttons more easily.
Oh, yes.
TM dissolves those buttons.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure, and also for the community, as people practice TM, it radiates out to others around. Obviously, if the brain waves become more coherent, there's something called global brain coherence that happens during TM. Alpha brain waves occur in TM. It's very different from other forms of meditation.
So talk to us. We have another couple minutes.
Okay.
Talk to us about that, because you're touching on something, Lindsay, which is so powerful. But before we do, because I get excited and I run out of time, How can people reach you?
Okay, thank you.
So let's get that in,
Yeah,
and then
So
wrap
if
up
you're
with-
in this area, you can just go online to tm.org/Carmel.
Well, it doesn't get any simpler than
Exactly, exactly. If you're not in the area, just go on tm.org and you just put in your zip code and your email address, and the nearest TM teacher will get back to you really fast. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely.
So we've got another couple minutes that I really want to talk about this global consciousness, because it is so powerful, in my opinion, and we can make a difference. And the way we think and the way we put our energy out, speak to that for a minute.
Yeah, okay. So something that happens during Transcendental Meditation is when the mind settles down and it contacts or experiences its own inner silence. It's nothing anybody does to you. There's no concentration, contemplation. Nobody zaps you with anything. It's just your own inner silence. It's giving you the key to be able to contact that regularly, systematically. So because of brain plasticity, the brain gets used to that style of functioning with extreme alpha and brainwave coherence, where the whole brain is connecting and coordinating with itself. And then the brain gets used to functioning like that, so it continues to function in activity outside of meditation. Now, the reason that I say that is that the brain waves become more coherent. So thought becomes more coherent, which means if it's a more powerful brain, it's going to be more powerful, coherent thinking. It's going to be more efficient action, which will lead to easier fulfillment, right? So that's the process. And when we tap into what is equated with the unified field, scientists tell us that that underlies everything in creation, this silence, this field of silence.
Right.
Infinite creativity and intelligence is in its latent form. And when we tap into that on the level of our own conscious awareness, then we are creating coherence in our own brains. And that is affecting the environment, because everybody has at their basis the unified field. And so it's kind of like when you practice Transcendental Meditation, you send a thrill through the unified field.
Well,
and that creates coherence in the environment.
I'm going to leave that because that's such a powerful thought, sending a thrill. Lindsay,
Okay,
thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you.
What a gift.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate your having me. It's been a joy, Paula Joy.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And you've been watching YourTown television program. Please do access this. It's an amazing gift. See you again.